Welcome to this webinar, Space for Twin Cities, Green and Sustainable Cities. I'm Günther Landgraf from the Earth Observation Directorate of the European Space Agency. And I introduce our speaker,
Dr. Stefano Ferretti. In the last 20 years, he has covered various positions, both in the space industry and in space agencies, ranging from strategy, exploration, and Earth observation. And in the context of Unispace Plus 50, he has organized various high-level space policy dialogue platforms in the European Union and in a global context. And he represents also the Earth Observation Directorate in the ESA Downstream Gateway activities.
Alberto Mojilesi. She's the Business Applications Manager in the Downstream Business Applications Department in the Directorate of Telecommunications and Integrated Applications at the European Space Agency. Other representatives from GMATICS, Marco Marchetti and Marcello Maranesi. Marco Marchetti is full professor of forest management at the Molise University, where he was vice rector from 2013 to 2019. He's at national level the president of the Fondazione Alber Italia. Marcello Maranesi is the CEO of GMATICS SRL, but my special pleasure is to have representatives of the people interested in this information from the city of Bergamo, Assessor Marzia Marchesi and William Senna. So Assessor Marzia Marchesi is the assessor of the municipality of Bergamo with various delegations, including that of public parks. She is professor of law at the secondary school, and she has been involved in associations and city administration for 20 years. So she was member of the city council from 2007 to 2019, and she was actually the first woman in Bergamo to hold the position of the president of the city council. William Senna is managing the public green service for the city of Bergamo, so he is in charge as project manager, designer and construction manager of the Bergamo public green areas, both in terms of management and maintenance and new projects. So he works on the conservation and implementation of the city's green heritage, from the minute scale of the single flower bed to the urban scale of parks and green systems. He's carrying out the assessment in the fields of public and private green areas and acting as a consultant in matters of constructions and urban planning. The City of Bergamo intervention will be introduced by my colleague Ilaria Siglioli. She is specialized in international and space law at the European Center for Space Law and at the International Space University. She joined the European Space Agency 20 years ago and now works as legal officer. She's in charge of preparing the legal texts required for the implementation of the ESA science program and represents the legal department in the relevant ESA committees in this respect. She's also in charge of negotiating license agreement with film and TV producers for the use of ESA images and videos relating to space in general and to ESA astronauts. She is regularly invited as lecturer in the ECSL summer courses and in different European universities. Ilaria, I pass the floor to you.
Thank you, Günther, and good afternoon, everybody. Allow me also to thank Donatella Ponziani and Stefano Ferretti for their kind invitation to take part to today's webinar on green and sustainable cities with involvement of the city of Bergamo. Urban green is becoming increasingly important as it provides significant value and benefits to the cities we live in. We know that a greener city is a healthier place where people can live and work better. Bringing nature to urban areas will increase the quality of air, the well-being and safety and prosperities of our cities. And since the quality of life, health and well-being of citizens will depend on how our city will evolve in the future, municipal administrations are urged to implement plans and projects based on ecosystem services and on a network of green infrastructures. The Multiple Actors Forest Information Service, also referred to as MAFIS and Urban Forest, is a project developed by the ESA Directorate of Earth Observation under the responsibility of Stefano Ferretti, which is aiming at providing the municipalities with the tools necessary to achieve these goals in the near future. In fact, the Urban Forest project will provide space-derived applications that will combine satellite data with detailed ground information in order to monitor the greenery in urbanized areas, favoring their maintenance, protection, and design, bringing together public city administrators, but also experts of botany, forestry, university, and research institutes. And finally, the players in the sector of urban design and construction, including architects. The space-derived applications will be then translated into new services, also commercial ones, to be further developed and exploited by startups or other existing companies. And today, Alberto Mojilesi from the Directorate of Telecom and Integrated Applications will tell us how ESA is going to support this process. Allow me briefly to recall that ESA has no commercial purposes. ESA is an intergovernmental organization with 22 member states whose mandate is to foster research in space technology and related applications for exclusively peaceful purposes. Being a research center, ESA's budget is spent through contracts with the European industry to develop new technologies and to make sure that investments in the space sector have a positive impact for European citizens. The Urban Forest project is thus developed via a contract signed between ESA and the company Gymatics, represented today by Marcello Maranesi, who will explain more in detail the insides of the Urban Forest project. Since the contribution of the municipalities' ground data is fundamental for the success of the project, a number of cities at international level are involved in the pilot phase of the Urban Forest project. Among these is Bergamo, a highly industrialized city located in North Italy that has become sadly famous last year because it was the first city in Europe to be heavily hit by the COVID-19. You might remember the pictures showing the long line of military trucks that were transporting coffins outside town because there was no place left in the cemetery. And last week, also the Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi came to Bergamo to commemorate all the victims of the pandemic at the occasion of its first anniversary. So involving Bergamo in the MAFIS project is indeed a way to show our solidarity too. Allow me to recall that 3 years ago, the municipality of Bergamo kindly hosted the seminar of the ESA Legal Services Department in the magnificent town hall and in the historical library. And mindful of that event and of the generous hospitality that we received, ESA expressed the will to make a contribution to the city through an initiative in the field of space-derived innovations. It is in this context that Bergamo was chosen as one of the pilot cities of the Urban Forest project, which is symbolically correlated to the need of oxygen. And this is the reason basically why we have today among us the councillor responsible for public green areas of the municipality of Bergamo, Mrs. Marzia Marchesi, accompanied by William Senna, that has already been introduced by Gunther, that have kindly accepted our invitation to participate to today's webinar, with the purpose to express the municipality's interest and expectations in the MAFIS project. So I thank you for your attention, and I give the floor to the representatives of the municipality of Bergamo. William Senna.
Good afternoon, and thanks to be here to show the Bergamo's project for the ESA program of sustainable cities. So we intend to talk about the present, the past, and the future of the city, talking about the green heritage. We intend to talk about monumental trees for the present, the main cemetery for the past, and the wood of memory for the future. We can go to the next slide, please. Monumental trees are special trees, and they can tell us about how a specific site was and how it has been managed at the present day. So they are testimonies about the changing of the sites, and we can discover something interesting things about places. The next slide, please. The main cemetery is a place of memory par excellence, an iconic place for the city, but not only, it has become just as important for the entire country, for the COVID. It's a place for the conservation of the green heritage and for the match the old green with the new green that we need to insert in a place of tombing like the cemetery. And the last one is the wood of memory, another place of remembrance too, but it's the wood of the future, the wood that is not there but will be there over the years. It's the wood for the community and for all the people, and it's important for a city that needs to be sustainable, to think about new projects of woods in the urbanization areas. What about the monumental trees? Go on with the next one slide. Monumental trees are special kind of trees. We have a national reference of law that describe it, and here you can see the 7 criteria that describes what a monumental tree is. It's a special tree about naturalistic value or monumental or historical and cultural value. In Bergamo, we have an important number of monumental trees located in historical parks or in green area, in green public area. As you can see in the next slide, you will find some example. Are trees that we can describe about taxonomy, dimensional data, and overall aspects of monumentality. This last one is the most important description for the naming of monumental. Here is an example of in a park in Night City. The next one slide show another example in a historical park in the down city. And the last one is an interesting group of trees, just a plurality, in a semi-peripheric area that once upon was an agricultural soil that in the time was changed in a public park when the city became larger. So we can recognize about what changes happening in areas with the changing of the cities. And you can see something of interesting about this kind of trees. But we have to go to the next topic, the main cemetery, and talking about the past. I'm not here to tell the story of this spatial site. It's not an ordinary cemetery, but much of the heritage of the burials found here are tombs and monumental chapels created by the best local craftsmen, not only and especially, for the most notable families of Bergamo. The decision to identify this site is because it's one portion of the city that more than others has been able to preserve much of the original appearance with which it was conceived, and a good observation point for looking at the development of the new urbanity. You can see some images about the main cemetery, old images and nowadays images, and you can see how spatial is this place. The next slide show another important things to be highlighted, and is the entrance avenue to the cemetery, Viale Pirovano, that leads to it. It's a spatial part of the landscape as the physical perimeter of the cemetery. It's a unique system, as you can see in the next slide, where from the aerial view you see the cemetery area and the entrance avenue, only a unique system. Another important things to say is about the plan of the cemetery. It is based on a grid of main roads and secondary roads at the intersection of which they are the burial grounds designed to house family chapels at key points, and simple tombs in all other cases. In addition to this structured and organized network, we find plants and other green elements. It's a kind of garden city, a spatial garden cities. We can think about a kind of concretization, a representation of the earthly paradise. The last one topic, the wood of future, the wood of memory. The association or virtuous municipalities proposed to the civic administration to create a memory wood within the urban park of Trucca. The area is the largest green park of the city, and at the same time is closely linked to the city mains and now famous hospital dedicated to Pope John XXIII. The Wood of Memory intends to be a landmark to remember the victims of COVID-19, and its realization is carried out with the collaboration of the municipality and other local associations. The intention is to make a wood not only as a simply green place, but a special place where artistic, social, and cultural events can be organized. And the focus, why we have to plant trees. There are many reasons for planting trees. Symbolically speaking, because they represent some memory, a symbol of new life, the roots and the solidity of the community. And they are an historical memory of a community. Physically speaking, as many of you know, they reduce the greenhouse effect, keep the soil cohesive, make the area more interesting from a landscape point of view, and more attractive to increase the level of the biodiversity. And last but not least, they are useful for mental and physical health. The wood of memory combines the planting of new trees with the creation of a community space with the big C participated and alive. A place for remember the pandemic emergency as other example, and a place of rebirth, resistance and resilience of our territory. Trucas Park is already a multifunctional park, suitable place for developing a project that symbolically combines the memory for all the people lost due to the pandemic with the life that are born and grows with the growth of trees. The numbers of this experimental project about the wood of memories: 815 between trees and shrubs, 133 trees, 70 forest trees especially selected for the urban habitat. This is very important. 19 small trees and shrubs, and finally 650 shrubs. This is only a starting project, and we know the city needs other wood, other urban forest for become really sustainable. And I'm finished. Thanks at all.
Welcome back to our webinar, and we continue with our next speaker, Dr. Stefano Ferretti,
who has received the NASA International Space Station Vehicle Office Award in 2006, and he has also received the prestigious International Astronautical Federation Napolitano Award in 2002. In the last 20 years, he has covered various positions both in the space industry and in space agencies, ranging from strategy, exploration, and Earth observation. And in the context of Unispace Plus 50, he has organized various high-level space policy dialogue platforms in the European Union and in the global context. Now he is looking on how EO could enable a more sustainable development on Earth, and he represents also the Earth Observation Directorate in the ESA Downstream Gateway activities.
Stefano, please.
Thank you, Gunther, for your kind introduction. So I'm here representing the Earth Observation Directorate, and I would like to present to you the work that we are doing with respect to the green cities and the urban forests. In the next slide, I will highlight here the relevance of forests for our planet, which we can monitor with the Earth observation satellites, including the Copernicus fleet of satellites, as well as dedicated scientific missions like the Earth Explorers, as well as with new space constellations, which are providing really valuable data. Forest loss accounts for 17% of anthropogenic greenhouse gases, and the forest covers about 31% of Earth land. So we can immediately see the relevance of forests for our life on this planet. On the other hand, we know that the majority of people, 56% of the people live on this planet in cities, and you can see on the right the footprint of cities, but only 1% of their surface is hosting trees. And you can see also that there is quite a significant impact both in terms of consumption of natural resources, dissipation of global energy, as well as consumption of food. So how can we create here a new synergy between the city and the forest? Well, some examples have been put forward by some architects which are thinking of the vertical forest concept. But on the other hand, it's here also highly relevant to mention that we can retrofit existing buildings with green roofs, or we can plant trees in the city in open areas, or in areas that can be converted into areas dedicated to green. The importance of green is really relevant for the citizens. So if we start thinking of cities as the place where the people live, the benefits for the citizens are incredible. First of all, the quality of life can be measured by the proximity of the greenery to the citizens. And also, if we think about the comfort and the good quality of life of people, it comes immediately to mind the presence of a park. So thinking about this, we did a bit of analysis, and in fact, the cities which have green reduces their energy consumption, they mitigate heat islands, they absorb more CO2 emissions, as well as dust and pollutants which are generated by the city. But forests in the city, urban forests, they also increase biodiversity, and they provide also an innovative way, an innovative landscape of looking at the city, depending on the season in which we are. So in the next slides, I would like to make a link with what we call the innovative approach towards more sustainable development overall. And the United Nations in the Agenda 2030 highlighted with the SDG number 11 that it's really important to make cities and human settlement more inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. This encompasses the collaboration between municipalities, academia, industry, and in our case also space agencies and space industry. In the context of urban forest, we can see that this is highlighted in terms of supporting sustainable development of several activities, and some of them are named here. So, for example, more integrated and sustainable human settlement planning and management, protecting the natural heritage, reducing the environmental impact of the cities themselves with a specific attention to air quality. But also it's important to provide universal access to green spaces. It's important to link cities, so the urban area, with the surrounding areas until we reach even the rural areas, and we can do that through the green corridors. All in all, it's very important to put in place policies and plans towards climate change adaptation, disaster resilience, in order to decrease also water-related disasters. All of this is very well represented by what the municipality of Bergamo is doing, and we are grateful that they are collaborating with us on this important initiative. And we really look forward to design together the cities of the future, making them more green and sustainable. You can see on the right, on the top right, a graph gently provided by Professor Salvitano about the ages of ecosystem services. And you can see there how the evolution of the cities from 5,000 years ago until now has evolved, taking into account new functions that the city are providing to the inhabitants. And of course, we are aiming at developing cities in the future that are more sustainable. They can even be called probably biocities. So in the next and concluding slides, I would like to highlight what Earth observation can do in order to make this happen. Certainly, Earth observation data and information can support the creation of scenarios for urban planners and architects where the presence of green can be introduced or can be increased. It also helps having this satellite information to identify areas at risk which are vulnerable to climate change, but also to anthropogenic pressures, including, for example, heat islands or pollution or health challenges. And finally, Earth observation is helping us to raise awareness also by involving new actors and the citizens and themselves. Therefore, with the rapid development of digital platforms, artificial intelligence, and the new Earth observation sensors on board of our satellites, we are on one side collecting large volumes of data, and on the other side we are creating a new ecosystem, a new business ecosystems, which can make a valuable source of information available to the stakeholders, to the users, and even in the end to commercial customers. You can see here on the left side that when we go through this data collection exercise, we normally create what we call data cubes, which are cubes with various layers of information. And we combine data from satellites, which can be optical, radar can see also through clouds, for example, or at nighttime, hyperspectral data and LiDAR data. But it's very important that this information is always combined with in situ data. So here it comes the importance of the collaboration with the municipalities and the actors, the local actors, which are providing, for example, cadastral maps or maintenance plans for the trees, measurements, and as well as drone or aerial surveys that they carry out on the green areas of their cities. Once we have created these data cubes, we use them as training data sets for very innovative artificial intelligence algorithms that then are used to co-design applications together with the users. These applications can serve various purposes. I here highlighted 4 main purposes. The first one is to design the cities of the future by mapping the green areas or the potentially green areas to be implemented in the cities. The second one is the management of the existing green, and therefore to improve and increase the value of the green heritage that is available. The third aspect, very important, is the public health. So we can both derive information on the pollens and the air quality. How this is related to green areas is quite obvious. And finally, the fourth and very important element is the climate change resilience. So it's not only about combating climate change, it's also to reduce these heat islands and to create more sustainable environments for the citizens. So all in all, we are thinking of creating what we call Digital Twin Earth. This is an initiative jointly carried forward with some partners. We have the European Centre for Medium Weather Forecast and EUMETSAT together with the European Commission, European Union, and we plan exactly to combine the environmental models with the social models and the economic development models of the happening in different areas and different teams on Earth. Altogether, these models will also provide planning capabilities and also very valuable information to the decision makers. So we will be able to simulate different scenarios depending on the various parameters associated to these 3 main elements that I just mentioned. And we really hope that having more green and sustainable cities will be one of the key elements of this digital twin of planet Earth that we are engaging with. So with this, I would like to thank all of you for your kind attention, and I will hand over to Gunther for the continuation of the webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stefano, for this very interesting presentation. And our next speakers are the representatives from G-Matics, Marco Marchetti and Marcello Maranesi. Marco Marchetti is full professor of forest management at Molise University, where he was vice rector from 2013 to 2019. He's at national level the president of the Fondazione Alberitalia, and in 2016 he has been elected as chairperson of the Italian Society of Silviculture and Forest Ecology, and in 2017 as president of the Italian Association of Agrarian Scientific Societies. He's a member of the National Board for Urban Green Development at the Ministry of Environment, and at the international level he represents Italy. He's the Italian delegate at the International Union of Forest Research Organizations. And since 2019, he's the chairman of the board at the European Forest Institute. Marcello Maranesi is the CEO of G-Matics SRL, the last startup he's taking care of, but he also already has been the founder and CEO of Eurimage, which was responsible for satellite data commercialization in Europe, and later of EGEOS, which is a joint venture between Telespazio and the Italian Space Agency. Here he has launched Cosmos Climate exploitation worldwide, and he has also participated in the new business initiatives of startups like Digital Globe, Telespazio International, subsidiaries such as GAF and EarthLab Luxembourg. He has served as director in the board of several Italian international companies and of the European Association of Remote Sensing Companies, of which he still is currently advisor. Marco and Marcello, the question to you is about urbanization. So it represents one of the key challenges highlighted by the United Nations for the coming decades, as well as for climate change. So what ecosystem services can we envision to tackle these challenges, and how can Earth observation contribute to more sustainable cities in the future? Please, I hand over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Gunther. Thank you for the invitation. Marco speaking. I think you can see the slides and you can move to the first one. First of all, adding my thanks to ESA for the attention to this specific topic that is increasing in importance all over the world, especially in Europe and finally also in Italy. We are working a lot at the Ministry of Environment. You are probably aware of this in this month, taking care of new approaches for urban forestry and urban greening. For example, in the recent act on climate fight, we are working with all the metropolitan areas to introduce urban forests and trees to fight the main crisis we are facing in these decades. And just to add something to the nice introduction of Stefano, I can say that we have in the cities the 1% of trees hosted with the 3% of land occupied, but we know that cities consume 75% of natural resources. And this is the very big problem, since the circle of knowledge between the land, the sky, then the life, the biological life on the earth is unknown mainly to the citizens. And since all over the world we see that the process of urbanization is increasing in all countries, poor and rich, cold and hot, could be a problem of awareness and a problem of information and education mainly. So we assist in this years to the urbanization of minds, behaviors, lifestyles. That means to move to a technological way of life, forgetting what is our intrinsic nature. But we know also that cities are, from the cultural point of view, the probably the only potential actors that can change and help humankind to fight the three main crises: the climate crisis, the decline of biodiversity, and the socio-ecological crisis, that means the inequalities into the different countries, into the cities themselves. In the next slides, we can just try to see something more on the ecosystem services that try to join the natural capital that is so small in the cities to the ecosystem functioning that is very important for several regulating and provisioning ecosystem services. First of all, we can talk about the water, since trees can help to reduce flood risks, intercepting water, and acting out of the cities for the cities themselves, because in the mountains we have to link again, to try to establish a new linkages into plain and mountains, into city and in the urban and rural areas. And this is the main challenge we have to focus on. We know also that it is possible to have a very good impact on CO2 assimilation and sequestration, because the daily trend for healthy trees is very important in terms of sequestration of carbon. But we know that the trees change the microclimates, helping with evapotranspiration that removes heat and can cool the air, with the shedding, which reduces the amount of radiant energy absorbed and stored by urban artificial surface, with the reduction of wind speeds that limits the infiltration of cold air during the winter. So several different services, reducing the heat island effect that has already been cited, reducing air pollution through the stomata, the main hole in the leaves, but also through the deposition on the cuticles and other plant surfaces. That is very, very important in terms of wellness for the people who lives in the cities. They act also, with the urban forests and the urban trees, act also very well on the ozone concentration. That is another very important point that we can monitor with several different technology. And finally, also to helps us to preserve biodiversity, creating and recreating habitats and ecological niches, creating linear settlement and a new ecological network. We can work using suitable species and proper cultural practices, greatly increasing biodiversity of urban environment. And this will help the first challenge we have, that I have already talked about, that is the need of awareness from the side of the people, starting from the young generation to all people that live in the city. We have to increase the awareness and the information. And this is also the role that we are trying to move. The next slide, please. With the new foundation we have set up in the last year, that is Alber Italia, then we'll work with exactly with this vision to take care of planted tree in the sustainable way, and to manage them, but also to manage and to link them from the city to the forest, in the mountain, or in any case in the inner areas, starting from Italy. But this is also the approach and the vision that we will see for the recovery plan and the next generation EU at the Commission level. And finally, we have also a very ambitious aim, that is to count how many millions of new trees we will plant in the next years, starting from Italy. And I think that the monitoring is absolutely a crucial point on this, especially to correctly inform people, institutions, administrations. And I move for this, I give the floor to Marcello, that will continue with the detail of our project. Thanks a lot again.
Okay, Thank you very much, Marco. And let me also thank ESA for having organized this interesting workshop and for having invited us to present the MAFIS. Next slide, please. Yes, the MAFIS project includes two basic components. Forest in the natural environment, in the countryside or in the mountains, plus trees and green areas in an urban environment. Let's have a quick look to the natural environment, and then we will focus on the city environment. So to develop and validate our new algorithms, we have selected two areas, one in Veneto region and one in Tuscany region, where we had already existing ground truth data and where we have collected some new in situ measurements. Next, please. And we have involved the various stakeholders at European level, the European Environmental Agency, at national level, the Ministry of Agriculture and the Institute of Environmental Protection and Research, 5 Italian regions, and the 3 associations, one representing the European sawmill industry, another one representing the European paper industry, and the Italian Society of Silviculture and Forest Ecology. Next, please. Within the MAFIS project, we are using various types of satellites. Sentinel-1 and Sentinel-2, thanks to ESA, Cosmos SkyMed and Prisma, provided by the Italian Space Agency, and ALOS-2, provided by JAXA, thanks to the links established by ESA. And I would like to thank these agencies for their support, as the data is the fuel for our activity. Let's now look into the results that MAFIS is producing. And basically, we have above ground biomass, which is the assessment of the tons per hectare of wood, which is contained in a forested area. And here we have in green and blue a map of the valley of a valley in the Veneto region, which has been recently produced by us. And then we are detecting disturbances, man-made cuts, forest fires, or windstorms, or other kind of diseases. As, for example, you see here the effect of the Vaya windstorm that happened at the end of October 2018, winds of about 200 kilometers per hour, smashed down something like 5,000 kilometers of forest. And next, please. Okay, now let's move to the urban environment. And here we have on one side a number of public customers, users, and stakeholders, like common citizens that are getting benefits from the trees and the green areas in cities, FAO, which is supporting us in various ways, and European Union with the Joint Research Center. And in Italy, we have a national level, the Ministry of Agriculture again, and the working group of the Benessere Italia of the Prime Minister Office. And the most important, we have a number of municipalities that have joined our project, where they are going to support us in a variety of ways, as we can see. Next, please. On the other side, we have also included a number of potential users from the industry side. We have representative from nurseries, tree nurseries with the MATI, arborists like Super Alberi. They are basically taking care of the various actions needed by the trees, including the monumental trees as presented by the Bergamo city. RDM projects, they are agronomists and forests people that are mapping and making surveys in the field. Boeri Studio, which is an architect studio doing mostly urban planning activities, and also multi-utilities, because they are progressively getting into the area of supporting municipalities in handling the urban green. Next, please. Okay, So which are the data that we use for the urban area? The same data that we have used for the natural environment, but we have something more. We have very high resolution data, worldview, Pleiad, spot, and planet, thanks to a voucher that ESA has provided us to purchase this commercial type of data. Then we still have Prisma, Cosmo, and ALOS 2 Pulsar that are doing specific tasks, as you see here in the table. But it's very important for us to use the local data because we need to get really down to the ground, and so have the aerial orthophotos or aerial LiDAR measurements for mapping, 3 in situ measurements to understand the physiological and the health status of trees, and also cadastral data that support any kind of activity from an administrative point of view. And on the other side, ESA is also providing us the data management platform and computational resources through the Network of Resources initiative. And this is very important because for small companies and startups like us, this means that we can get access and use state-of-the-art technology and really great computing power. Additionally, the Network of Resources is enabling us to connect with the Forestry TAP and the Urban TAP, which are 2 specialized platforms and user communities that will be important for us to expand our outreach in the European environment. Next, please. Oh, no, so it's already there, sorry. And of course, ESA is providing another big component. It's providing the budget for the R&D activities, which are performed by our project partners, and namely the University of Molise, with the Professor Marchetti, with RDM Progetti, and the GeoK, which is a spin-off of Tor Vergata University. And mostly in the urban areas, we also have the University of Florence, which is specifically going to develop the ecosystem services analyzation and quantification. Super Alberi, which is taking care of specific measurements on the trees, and the University of Košice, that is going to support the analysis of the heat islands together with the GeoK. Now let's have a look at the specific results that the MAFIS project within cities is providing. So, as I said, the mapping and the tree health status within cities. And this is important also in private parks and areas, which are not accessible for on-the-ground inventories. We can really measure and quantify the carbon sequestration that depends on the various species of trees planted, and the heat islands that enables the municipality to plan recovery measures and mitigation measures. All this information is meant to support the planning and management activities of municipalities and their subcontractors as well. And what is very important is the fact that with the kind of regular monitoring that will be provided by the Sentinel data, municipalities can not only plan, design for the future, but can continuously monitor what's going on. What is the impact of the initiatives and the actions that they have implemented? And I think this is one fundamental point that has been highlighted by a number of people involved in this activity. Monitoring means growing our understanding and growing our experience in how to manage the green areas in our city. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Marco and Marcello, for this view on what is possible today and tomorrow. And I introduce our last speaker, which is Alberto Mojilesi. She's the Business Applications Manager in the Downstream Business Applications Department in the Directorate of Telecommunications and Integrated Applications at the European Space Agency. So she has been involved as project manager in the development of more than 40 services dealing with transport, maritime, fishing, and infrastructure monitoring. And Roberto, maybe you can tell us a bit more how space technologies are improving the quality of modern city life.
Thank you, Gunther, for the nice introduction. Thanks for the invitation. So I will present some of the initiatives which are carried out in our team of ESA Space Solution, showing how space data can be used in application for a sustainable development of the city. So going then to the next, and to the next as well. So in the ESA Space Solution, what we are doing is we are supporting a user community, European industry, to develop, so we help them to develop innovative services and applications using space technology and space data. So in a certain way, it's the go-to place for creating new business which involve space to improve everyday life on Earth. So going to the next, just a few words on how we are doing this. So we are supporting European company, which can be startup, SME, or bigger company, offering funding, business support, technical support to help them to develop sustainable services which can be commercialized. Okay, this is the key word, and therefore creating a positive socioeconomic impact for the people, for the citizen in Europe. So going to the next, we are doing this in many different domains. You see here a number of different names of different domains. And from the other side, you see the space technology, which are integrating the solution, the application. And this can be space weather, Earth observation data, satellite navigation, communication, and sometimes also human space flight. Now, going to the next. So, contemporary city cannot cope with the growth. So here are images of today's city. What you see, road congestion, bad air quality, waste of resources, natural disaster, poverty. So with respect to the global sustainability challenges that we are facing, for example, climate changes, we can see that the city are both part of the problem, but also are part of the solution. So going to the next one. So what it is, the next step is the city need to be redesigned. They have to be reinvented to be smart, to become smart. So smart city, green, people-oriented. So going then to the next, city should be redesigned in a way to improve people mobility, innovating public space, and ultimately to increase the green around the city instead to remove it. And also, for example, the building made not anymore by material which is extracted, by material which is grow for it. For example, you see a lot of timber. So then getting to the next, complementing now the nice introduction of Stefano, and according to the SDG 11, what we are doing in our team is in particular focusing to application, for example, according to the SDG 11, so to reduce resource consumption, to increase the efficiency, to build sustainable urban and rural development. Well, now, the SDG 11 has several targets, and if now we are looking particularly to the number 7, this is, let's say, the green and the public space. And here we have established several initiatives centered on sustainable environmental services to demonstrate how space technology, satellite application are key to develop the, let's say, green services to the city. Now going to the next, it has been already said, let's say, the value that the fact that the green infrastructure, like a urban park, is a critical component in the urban sustainability. So the concept of urban green as a key mechanism for attracting the people in the local natural environment to deliver a range of health, social, economic benefit, but also opportunity. And this was quite evident during the months of pandemic, where there has been an increase of mobility towards the green space and the public garden. Now, going to the next, and this is, we have been discussing several months with our colleague in the Earth Observation Directorate, and in particular now we are preparing a joint invitation to tender, so an invitation, a competition for European industry, and this is called Space for Urban Green, where the purpose of this activity will be to assess technical feasibility and business viability of space-based services contributing to the urban green. So the activity that the bidder shall engage is the definition of services, developing a business case, establish a roadmap for a follow-on service implementation through a follow-on demonstration project. And we have also initiated discussion with a lot of stakeholders. In particular, we have the collaboration with the European city. And through this discussion, we have got idea on possible area of application and the requirements. And now going to the next slide, I would like just to present to you three, let's say, area of application. This is not at all an exhaustive list, but clearly is the planning and the design. So urban green space, which should be designed, planned in a flexible way, adapting to changing future demanding of the city, and also take into account the impact on human health, so the improvement of the air quality, but also the reduction in the urban heat effect during the summertime, and also increasing the biodiversity. The other one is sustainable development. So we know that would be important to assess the changing status of the green area. And also important is that the fact that the urban green space face with, let's say, maintenance requirements, which has to be done. And also important is the social value of that could be also assessed in the study. Also, the stakeholder has also pointed out the importance of having urban green indicators, which could be, for example, the characteristics of the greenery, but also the accessibility or the impact on the air quality. And now going to the next slide, another application which arises in the context of the sustainable green city, which we have undertaken, is the green building. Where what are green buildings? Are buildings which are environmentally responsible by efficiently using water, energy, resources, reducing waste and pollution. And going to the next, we have seen, and we are still developing and supporting industry to develop a number of services in the context of the green building. For example, I just mentioned the top one, the service to monitor the outdoor air pollution for the inside the ventilation of the building using 5G and space data. And now, again, going to the next, another aspect for a sustainable city is, of course, the energy. And the particular image which I put here illustrates the growing energy demand that we expect to see from cooling in the city because of the warm times. So the International Energy Agency has predicted that the figure for the air conditioning will triplicate, and the number of air conditioner in the building is projected to grow something like 6 billion by 2050. So going then to the next, just this again brings back to the importance of the green and the sustainability of the city. We have in fact already seen, this is an image of the vertical garden in the city of Jakarta, where actually the green has a lot of benefit. So it can, let's say, act as a rainwater buffer because it reduces basically the water going down, reduce then the risk of flooding, reduce the roof temperature, so it can reduce the energy usage, and of course add value to the building itself. And then going to the next one, which is the last, is just a summary of how space asset can contribute to some of these services. So in our application, what we see is satellite navigation is instrumental as a main source for georeference location data. For example, GNSS is used to locate where the emissions are taken, where the emissions are generated. Is also used to navigate, for example, drone and apps. Then we have the satellite communication, which are used to replay information, for example, from machine-to-machine sensor, for example, in a remote area when there is no terrestrial connection, or if there is a failure in the connection, and also SATCOM provide a lot of data, video, and so on. And then satellite Earth observation with atmosphere component, meteo data, which can be derived, satellite Earth observation data in combination with demographic and geospatial data can be used to support, for example, assessment of the impact on the environment and the population. And as an ultimate sentence is also what we have seen in most of the application solution, as was also mentioned before, is that there are, let's say, a lot of digital technology like machine learning, deep learning, artificial intelligence, but also the 5G terrestrial network, which are relevant for the application, and it will be enriched when are complemented with the space data. And with this last sentence, I conclude my presentation, and I thank you a lot for your attention.
Thank you, Roberta. Interesting outlook. We have a few minutes left. And Julia, do we have some questions from the public?
Yes, we just received one question from Michael asking whether this kind of initiative and project can a company from the Eastern Partnership participate in some way? And he's asking specifically for Ukraine. So can Eastern countries participate in this kind of initiative and project? And I would add also, in which way?
Okay, I would pass this to Stefano and to Roberta, if you can answer to that.
Yeah, thank you, Gunther. For the Earth observation side, what I can say is that if is from a public authority or from a user organization, we would be very glad to welcome him as a user or a stakeholder to join our initiative by providing requirements, use cases that we can validate and test through the algorithm development activity that we have, which is ongoing. In terms of having a direct contract with ESA, here, as Ilaria pointed out at the beginning in her introduction, our member states can only, let's say, receive contracts for development of new projects. So in that case, that would be a limitation for a country that is not yet a member of ESA.
Roberta, do you have to add something to that?
The microphone.
Roberta, I'm not sure.
Yes, so how the European company can participate to our program and to bid for, let's say, this invitation to tender. Of course, there are several ways. There are Kickstart, there are feasibility study, there are demonstration project, there are open call and so on. But this, the company, they have to come from a member state which has subscribed to our program, which is the, let's say in this case, is the ARTES 4. And let's say we can check, but I think Ukraine is not one of the member states that has unfortunately yet subscribed to our program.
So I hope this will trigger that Ukraine becomes very soon a new member state of the European Space Agency. Maybe I have a question on to Marcello. I mean, I see this rapid development of the digital platforms, artificial intelligence, these EO sensors. I mean, they create this huge volume of data, and how to turn this in a valuable source of information for the stakeholders. So what downstream services can address the needs of the municipalities with respect to the green spaces and urban forests, and can this foster the growth of the Earth observation industry, in your opinion?
Yes, I think that the combination of Earth observation, artificial intelligence, and advanced platforms can really produce regular, structured, routine monitoring services, mapping and monitoring services, which is a fundamental step because we need to produce that regularly at a cost-efficient price and make that accessible easily by the customer. And here we have to make a special consideration. From our recent experience, we found out that there is a last mile to arrive at the end user. The end user is already currently operating through an internal process, an internal workflow. He has internal tools, for example, SAP or a GIS system. And we need to bridge this gap between our provided information and what is part of his current system. So it's not just a question for us to train or educate the user. We need to be trained and educated to how he is performing today. And if we manage to do that, then all the potential, all the capabilities that the new space technology can provide can really turn into so-called actionable information.
Okay, thank you, Marcelli. Last question from Tim Burek. He thinks, what is about the observation of CO2 emissions by remote sensing? Who wants to give a quick response to that? So I will respond to that. There is a new mission planned. Actually, carbon CO2 observation is a hot topic, and let's say this is in the pipeline to be addressed. So this will be possible soon in a few years. And with this, I would like to thank to all of our speakers. It was very interesting, and I thank all the audience for listening to us. And I hope it was interesting for you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.